The crimson sun of Zephyria cast long shadows across the crystal palace as King Vorthak paced his throne room with heavy steps that echoed through the vast chamber. His 6 daughters stood before him in a perfect line, their iridescent scales catching the dying light, each one unique in her own terrible beauty. Commander Jake Martinez had arrived 3 cycles ago as an ambassador from Earth-seeking trade agreements between the Terran Federation and the Zephyrian Empire. He was young for a human, perhaps 30 standard years, with dark hair and kind eyes that seemed to see beyond the surface of things. The king had watched this human carefully during the negotiations, noting how he treated even the lowest servants with respect and dignity. Now Vorthak faced a decision that would change everything. "My daughters," he began, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "I have ruled this empire for over 2,000 years, and in all that time I have seen empires rise and fall, species come and go, but never have I encountered beings quite like these humans." The eldest daughter, Princess Lyra, shifted slightly, her silver scales rippling like liquid mercury. She had spent the most time with the human ambassador translating documents and explaining Zephyrian customs. She found his questions thoughtful, his manner refreshing compared to the arrogant nobles of their own court. "This human Jake Martinez represents something new," continued the king. "Something our people need. If we are to survive the coming dark times, the Galactic Council grows suspicious of our military might. Our neighbors whisper of war, but humans, they offer something different." Princess Maya, the second eldest, frowned, her golden scales darkening with concern. "Father, what are you suggesting?" "Alliance through marriage," declared Vorthak, the words falling like stones into still water. "One of you will marry this human, and through that union our peoples will be bound together in ways no treaty could achieve." The throne room fell silent save for the gentle hum of the gravity generators. Princess Kara, the third daughter, took a step back, her blue scales paling to almost white, while Princess Donna, the fourth, merely stared at their father with unreadable amber eyes. The 2 youngest princesses, Beth and Lisa, exchanged glances. Beth barely passed her coming-of-age ceremony. Lisa, still considered young even by human standards, both seemed more curious than horrified by their father's proclamation. "I have observed this human," spoke Princess Lyra carefully. "He is not like the stories we were told about their species. He shows honor, courage, and an unusual capacity for understanding others. But father, to force such a union—" "Who said anything about force?" interrupted the king, his eyes glinting with something that might have been amusement. "I merely command that one of you will marry him. The choice of which daughter, however, remains yours to decide among yourselves." Princess Maya stepped forward, her posture radiating defiance. "This is madness, father. Humans live barely a century while we endure for millennia. Would you have one of us waste eternity bound to a creature that will wither and die before we reach our prime? Yet their brief lives burn so brightly," mused Princess Kara, her scales shifting to a thoughtful purple. "I have read their histories, their literature. They accomplish in decades what takes our people centuries to achieve." Princess Donna remained silent, but her tail lashed. With barely contained emotion, she had always been the most independent of the sisters, the one who questioned tradition and dreamed of adventures beyond the palace walls. The king raised his hand for silence. "You have 3 days to decide. If no volunteer comes forward, I will choose myself. Now go consider what I have said." As the sisters filed out of the throne room, each lost in their own thoughts, none noticed the small figure of Lisa lingering in the shadows. The youngest princess had always been overlooked, dismissed as too young to matter, but she possessed a sharp intelligence and a curiosity about the wider universe that burned like a star. Later that evening, Princess Lyra found herself walking the palace gardens where bioluminescent flowers cast a soft glow across the pathways. She was surprised to discover the human ambassador sitting on a bench near the fountain of singing crystals. "Commander Martinez," she said, approaching cautiously. "Please just call me Jake," he replied, standing. "Respectfully, I hope I am not intruding. I find these gardens peaceful." "You are troubled," she observed, sitting beside him on the bench, though maintaining proper distance. "Your father informed me of his decision," Jake said quietly. "I want you to know that I never asked for this. Never expected it, yet you do not refuse." Jake was quiet for a long moment. "Would it matter if I did? Your father seems determined, and I understand why politically it makes sense, but personally, Lyra asked, her voice softer than usual personally. Jake turned to look at her, his eyes reflecting the garden lights. I find your people fascinating, your culture rich and complex, and you in particular have shown me kindness. I did not expect. Lyra felt her scales warm with something she did not entirely understand. Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Princess Maya paced her chambers like a caged predator, her scales flickering between gold and angry red. Her personal guard Captain Vex watched nervously from the doorway. This is insane, she muttered to herself. We are not breeding stock to be traded for political convenience, perhaps, spoke Vex carefully. The human is not what we expected. None of the servants report him as cruel or demanding. That is not the point, snapped Maya. We are princesses of the blood royal, heir to the throne of worlds. Are we to become trophies for an alien species that has barely learned to leave their own planet? Down the hall, Princess Kara stood before her collection of human artifacts. Books, music recordings, artistic works. She had been studying human culture for years, fascinated by their rapid evolution, their emotional depth, their capacity for both great beauty and terrible destruction. A human husband, she whispered to herself. Touching a leather-bound copy of Shakespeare, the idea was not entirely unpleasant. Humans valued intelligence, creativity, passion, all things she found lacking in Zephyrian court life. Princess Donna had retreated to the palace training grounds where she worked through combat forms with mechanical precision. Her scaled body moved with deadly grace as she imagined fighting against the constraints her father would place upon her freedom. The youngest sisters, Beth and Lisa, huddled together in Beth's chambers, whispering like conspirators. What do you think of him? Asked Beth, her scales shimmering with nervous energy. He's different, replied Lisa thoughtfully. Not like the stories grandmother told us about savage aliens. He treats everyone with respect, even the cleaning staff. Would you really consider it? Beth asked the question that hung unspoken between them. Lisa was quiet for a long moment before answering. What if this is our chance to do something important to help our people? To see the universe beyond these palace walls. The next day brought meetings and arguments as the sisters debated among themselves. Princess Maya remained adamantly opposed, threatening to leave the planet rather than submit to what she called barbaric customs. Princess Kara wavered between fascination and uncertainty, while Princess Donna spoke little, but her agitation was clear to all. Princess Lyra found herself seeking out the human ambassador again, drawn by his calm presence and thoughtful conversation. She began to understand why her father had chosen this particular human for his plan on the second evening. As the deadline approached, an unexpected voice spoke up during the sisters' private council. I will do it, said Lisa, her young voice cutting through the heated debate like a blade. The older sisters stared at her in shock. Lisa, you are barely of age, protested Maya. This is not a game. I know exactly what this is, replied Lisa with dignity beyond her years, and I know what it means for our people. Father is right. Humans offer us something we lack. They have heart fire, the will to grow and change. You cannot be serious, said Kara. But even as she spoke, she could see the determination in her youngest sister's eyes. Think about it, continued Lisa. We have lived for centuries in the same patterns, the same traditions, the same fears. Meanwhile, humans have gone from primitive tribes to space travelers in mere millennia. Imagine what we could learn from them, what we could become. Princess Donna stepped forward, her scales dark with thought. The child speaks wisdom, she said slowly. Perhaps it is time for new traditions, new ways of thinking. Princess Lyra felt something twist in her chest as she realized her youngest sister was serious and perhaps right, but the thought of Lisa bound to the human filled her with unexpected emotion. That night Lisa found Jake in the gardens again. He sat by the fountain looking up at the alien constellations with wonder that never seemed to fade. Commander Martinez, she said, approaching with formal steps. Lisa, he said, surprised but not displeased to see her. What brings you to the garden so late? I wanted to speak with you, she said, sitting beside him without ceremony. About my father's command? Jake nodded gravely. Your sisters have been kind in explaining the situation. I hope you know that I would never wish to force anyone into an unwanted marriage. What if it is not unwanted? Asked Lisa, her scales shimmering with barely contained excitement. What if someone saw this as an opportunity for adventure, for growth, for something beyond the life they have always known? Jake studied the young princess carefully. You speak of adventure, but marriage is a serious matter, especially between our species. There would be challenges, cultural differences, physical adaptations needed for compatibility. I have studied your people, said Lisa, her eyes bright with eye.